earning, let's say a task authorization starts at $200,000. Each month you have to say how much that resource has used up against that. So not really from a performance. That's more done, like I said, performance is done by an employee, but we track the finances typically with PSPC to understand, is a task authorization running out? Is a contract running out? Is there time to do renewals? So that's the extent of how we're monitored from the government organization. Everything else, like project management, budget, and everything, is taken care of by them.
Thank you very much. That is our time, I'm afraid. Mrs. Vignola for 2.5, please.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Mr. Firth, earlier when we were talking about COVID alert, you stated that a government official reached out to you from Shared Services, Digital Services, Canada, who had heard about you. Did that government official tell you who referred him or her to you?
No, he did not. It was more a case of, we understand the work you're doing on ArriveCAN, and that's kind of how the introduction started.
OK. Parce que...
I see. Basically, COVID alert was being supervised by PHAC, the Public Health Agency of Canada, someone you know well and someone you had dealings with regarding COVID alert, was transferred to that department, who won a position in a competition, and that is why I asked the question about the referral. Thank you very much. Now, you also stated that the mistakes on the part of the Auditor General may have been due to the codes that CBSA uses that are not always so clear. In your opinion, when it comes to procurement and contracting, do they need to tidy up their house at the CBSA in order to clarify what those codes are, such that the transparent government, quote unquote, is truly transparent, and such that data is much more clear in the eyes of the public and also for the politicians sitting around this table?
Yes, I agree. They need to do that.
Donc,
therefore, you have no particular input on this topic, even though you received, and you stated this yourself, well, you had to deal with the adverse effects and ramifications due to the fact that the codes are not clear enough, as you stated yourself.
Yeah, so I don't have access to the codes. All I have access to is the reporting and the numbers that are completely contradictory to what I have. Again, I have the luxury of speaking to every one of the 100 consultants we put through during the pandemic to get a true understanding of their level of effort for what they were working on and what they were doing. So if you're coming in as an Auditor General, you would not have access to the detail that I currently have, but you'd have access to calculating task authorizations. And the truth being there as well, that not all task authorizations are fully utilized. So you may see one for $200,000, but only 120 was actually used on that task authorization. So this is, again, where these inflated numbers can come from, because there's just not the financial system in place that can do real-time health checks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Backrack, go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2019, and this is pre-COVID. This, I believe, was in reference to a chatbot product that Bottler had developed. And there's some communication between Mr. McDonald and yourself. And I'll go back to your previous comments from the last round, where you said that the reason that the government might direct contractors to work through your standing contract with the government is because it's faster and more efficient than going through a procurement process, which could take several months. That's a fair characterization. I see you sort of nodding. Is that fair, Mr. Firth?
Yeah, not just mine, or any existing contract.
So here's a communique from Mr. McDonald, November 18th, 2019. And this is an email to you. And he says, look, Christian, I can't solicit this as a government department. And I know, I think there's an opportunity for you, GC Strategies, to partner with these guys, he means Bottler, and knowing what you can do in this town, I think you can turn this into an enterprise product. What did Mr. McDonald mean by, I can't solicit this as a government department? It sounds like it doesn't have to do with efficiency. It sounds like it has to do with working around some kind of rules that are in place to prevent him from going out there and handpicking contractors.
Thank you for the question. And the truth is, I can't comment on what Mr. McDonald was writing or why he was writing those things. I'm sorry, at that point, I was not writing on behalf of Mr. McDonald, so I can't attest to what he meant by that.
Like, I guess what it looks like to someone from on the outside is it looks like Mr. McDonald is doing your bidding and trying to set you up for turning this into an enterprise product. I assume because you would be able to charge a substantial commission if the product that Bottler had developed became an enterprise product. Like, do you agree that this is a wholly inappropriate role for someone high up in CBSA to be playing?
Again, I can't speculate on what the intentions were with that email. I mean, everybody can interpret it how they want. I just can't speculate, and I don't really know the intent behind that email.
I find that difficult to believe, Mr. Firth. Like, if you look,
it's the truth. Like, I was not in Mr. McDonald's brain when he was writing that. I can't make assumptions on what the intentions were for that email.
Thanks. That is our time.
Assuming.
Yeah, that is our time.
I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Bachrach. Mr. Deltel, please go ahead for 5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Now, obviously, we want to get to the bottom of what is the worst financial scandal of the history of the Government of Canada. This is a contract that was supposed to start at about $80,000, ended up in an orgy of spending of over $60 million, which is over 750 times more expensive than what was expected. This is not right. Canadians need to understand why there was this boondoggle that they're still paying for to date. We know that GC Strategies was threatened with arrest regarding testifying here, which attests to the fact that there was no confidence in the fact that you may have refused to testify before this committee, but I'm afraid you have under the obligation to do so. Mr. Chairperson, this is not the first time that Mr. Firth is testifying. There were two previous testimonies. First, regarding the testimony, your previous testimony, did you lie, yes or no, in your previous evidence?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please? I was at some feedback on my microphone.
Avez-vous menti?
Did you lie in your two previous appearances before this committee? Yes or no?
For two, I made a mistake with a cottage and a chalet last time I was here.
Okay.
And again, it's not a lie. I mean, the actual irony is that it was referred to as a cabin.
Et puis l'hospitalité avec le whisky sur vos...
And what of the whiskey and the hospitality involved?
Yeah, there's been previous testimony where there was whiskey tasting, and I think it was mentioned that that was put out to government officials, and it was also put out to contractors, and those government officials have since said that they got permission from their superiors and paid their way.
Prenons maintenant le contrat tel qu'il...
Now, the contract as it was awarded, it's the contract that you executed. At what point did you realise that $80,000 was insufficient and that things were starting to cost a lot? At $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? At what point did you clue into the fact that this was going to go through the roof and it was going to become exceedingly expensive?
So again, thank you for the question. Like that, that's not my determination. The first contract award was for $2.35 million. That was the one that was the first COVID contract. Subsequently, there were amendments that were made. You have to bear in mind, I think testimony mentioned that national security exemptions only were to last for 3 months. So there had to be a decision made by the government to either put a larger number and keep doing amendments versus keep going back and retendering and redo it, which isn't a fast process, we know that, to retender and restructure a contract every 3 months. My understanding was it did jump, the one contract we're talking about, that went from 2.35 and it went to 13.9. But my understanding was every time there was an amendment, it was published on buy and sell, which has 635 other companies can challenge. And it was also put in front of the House, and MPs voted in the House every single time there was an amendment. So it wasn't like I knew, but everybody knew that the prices were raising.
Qui s'assurait de la...
Who monitored the quality of the work that you were doing? Overnight, you can't just go from $80,000 to $60 million without someone sounding the alarm bells and saying something is awry. Who monitored the quality of your work?
We'd have 4 or 5 government officials that was monitoring the quality of our work. Well, we were not, there were other prices associated to just ArriveCAN and the application bill that we're not privy to. So we were not part of the 19.1 or the 11 million to the 60. We were from the 0 to the 11 or 19.1, depending on which article you want to read.
On comprend là, que quand arrive la COVID, il y a des...
Now, when COVID struck, of course, there were going to be exceptions. Everyone understands that. But there's a distinction to be made between being very active and inflating the bill to the tune of 700 times larger exponentially. That's what Canadians wanted to get to the bottom of. When did you realise that this was a phenomenal cost overrun and yet it was lacking in quality? At what point, please?
Well, first of all, we've submitted over 1,500 invoices monthly. So again, I want to get the illusion of everybody's thinking right now, we were never given a check for $20 million on day one. We've done 1,500 monthly approved submitted invoices for the last 3 years to get to whatever amount you want to listen to, 19.1 or 11. We were not responsible for alerting any alarm bells. We were performing, we hit 171 releases of the application on time. Every time Public Health Agency changed the policy, we'd have to amend the application, and that there in itself, the fact we were hitting all of our targets meant that we were doing a good job, but we also don't control what the budget is. That's out of our realm.
Vous faisiez, ouais, je prends votre propos.
Our time. Okay. Mr. Jouari, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Furtz, I'd like to focus on 3 areas, and I only have 5 minutes. Number one, in your testimony, you referred to 3 companies. One, Vertec, and I would ask you to give us the proper spelling of that, which you were an employee between 2007 to 2015. Then I understood that there was a company named Clorox, which there had 3 partners, and then in 2015, 2 of you bought this company, which then applied for a name change and CRA, et cetera. It became GC Strategy. So are you telling me, or is my understanding of the fact that you were employee at Vertec and you also had a company, were part of a 3-man show during that period?
No, from 2007 till March 2015, I was an employee of Veritech, which is VERITAAQ. I was there for 8 years. Okay. Then myself and my 2 business partners, we approached a company called Cordeal, who had previously been working independently from us. And when we purchased them in April and subsequently did the name changes and everything else to rebrand.
Okay. So in your due diligence, in buying that company, did you look into any type of connection that they had with the government and or any contracts that they had worked in the past and projected contracts that they had in the future?
So we went back 5 years, and so we saw the contracts they previously had with PSPC. And then I think when we purchased them, they only had 1 contract outstanding with Natural Resources Canada.
Are you in a position to tell us how much you bought it and how much of that was goodwill?
I can't. I don't think I can disclose that right now.
Okay. We'll leave that. Now, coming to your, again, opening remarks, second area, you have consistently said the application build, and you've emphasized this on the build, where we know that the Auditor General has said this total application build and support and all of those things it can be estimated around 60 million. We don't know that number is right or not, but and you are telling us that it's your part of ArriveCAN build was $11 million. Can you